The evacuation pod hurtled through debris-filled space as Elena held her trembling daughter close. 8-year-old Mira's fingertips left smudges on the viewport, smudges that somehow contained impossibly complex engineering diagrams no child should comprehend. "Mira, honey, how do you know these things?" Elena whispered, her commander's composure fracturing as she stared at the perfect schematics. "They're scared, Mom," Mira replied, her eyes unfocused. "Not of what we are, of what we might become." The pod's communications crackled to life with Admiral Takahashi's voice. "Commander Rise, if you're receiving this, the Council needs you. We're assembling at Artemis Base. The Selnar Air." Static interrupted. Moving toward Earth. Elena piloted the pod toward the hidden lunar facility, watching the rear displays as what remained of Mars' colony drifted in pieces. 30,000 lives. Friends. Colleagues. Her husband's research station had been near Olympus Mons. She hadn't heard from him since the attack began. Focus, she told herself. First, deliver Mira to safety. As they approached Artemis Base's hidden entrance in the Tycho crater, Elena saw dozens of other escape vessels congregating, the scattered remnants of humanity's off-world presence. The base had been constructed in secret after the Proxima Centauri signals 5 years ago suggested intelligent life might exist beyond the solar system. Nobody had expected first contact to be an extinction-level event. Inside, chaos reigned. Military personnel from 17 nations coordinated defense preparations, while scientists huddled around fragments of the alien probe recovered from Earth. Elena guided Mira through the crowded corridors toward the medical wing, noticing how her daughter's eyes lingered on the alien technology. Commander Reyes. Dr. Marcus Chen emerged from the research section, his rumpled appearance suggesting he hadn't slept in days. "We've been trying to reach you since." He stopped, noticing Mira. "Is this your daughter? The one who?" "Who what?" Elena demanded. Chen lowered his voice. "There are reports from Earth. Children around the world are drawing the same images, having identical nightmares. We believe the probe's radiation triggered something in developing brains." Mira slipped from Elena's grasp and approached the largest fragment of alien technology, a crystalline structure pulsing with subtle light. "Don't." Chen reached for her, but too late. Mira's small hand touched the surface. The crystal flared brilliant blue, projecting holographic symbols across the room's walls. Everyone froze. "They're coming again," Mira said calmly as complex equations and star charts materialized around her. They'd done this before, to others. But something's different this time. A senior intelligence officer approached, her expression grave. "Commander Reyes, the Selnar fleet has established positions around Earth. Their commander has requested your presence specifically for negotiations." "Me? Why?" Elena asked. The officer pointed to the holographic display emanating from where Mira touched the crystal. "Because somehow, they know about her. They're demanding we surrender all children exhibiting anomalous neural patterns. They claim it's a corruption that must be purged." Elena felt her blood run cold as Mira turned to her with unnaturally old eyes. "It's not corruption, Mom," she said. "It's evolution, and it terrifies them." Alarms blared throughout the base. On the monitors, massive Selnar vessels began moving into lower Earth orbit, energy weapons charging. "They're not waiting for an answer," someone shouted. Elena made her decision instantly, scooping Mira into her arms. "Dr. Chen, your research on xenobiology. Could it help understand what's happening to my daughter?" Chen hesitated only briefly. "It's why they discredited me years ago. I theorized that certain extraterrestrial radiations might accelerate human cognitive development. They called me a madman." "Well, Doctor," Elena said, watching Earth's atmosphere begin to burn as Selnar weapons fired, "I think madness might be exactly what humanity needs right now." The neural interface crown on Mira's head glowed softly in the dim light of the underground facility beneath the ruins of what had once been Auckland. Dr. Chen carefully adjusted the calibration as Alina watched, her knuckles white from gripping the edge of the medical bed. Her cellular degeneration has accelerated again, Chen said quietly, avoiding Alina's gaze. The dream's heir. Killing her. I know. Alina's voice was steady despite the tremor in her hands. How much time? Chen's expression tightened, without the interface sharing the burden. Days, maybe hours. With it, he trailed off. How many children like her have we found? Alina asked. 17 worldwide, all exhibiting the same symptoms. Nightmares filled with cellular tactical data, physiological deterioration, and cognitive leaps beyond anything in human record. Chen adjusted a setting on the crown. But Mira's connection is the strongest. A technician rushed into the room. Commander, the Mexico City defense is live. You're needed in command. Alina kissed her sleeping daughter's forehead before following the technician to a makeshift war room. Screens displayed satellite imagery of the cellular ground forces advancing through the ruins. Special units deployed as ordered, Commander, reported Colonel Vega. Heavy metal and orchestral tracks broadcasting on all channels. On the largest screen, helmet cameras showed human soldiers moving in perfect synchronization, while Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries blasted from speakers built into their armor. The Selnar troops, 8-limbed creatures with translucent exoskeletons, moved with mechanical precision until the music reached them. Then, astonishingly, they began to falter, their movements becoming erratic. It's working, someone whispered. Alina watched as the human forces pressed their advantage, using tactics that seemed to anticipate every Selnar countermove. They're fighting with knowledge they shouldn't have, a general remarked with both awe and suspicion. Intel from the Dreamers, Alina replied. My daughter is dying to give us this advantage. A smaller screen showed a stealth team led by Captain Jackson Chen, Marcus's younger brother, approaching a grounded Selnar vessel. Alina tapped her comlink. Jackson, remember. Extract technology only. Do not engage unless necessary. I know the drill, Commander. His voice came through with the faint sound of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony playing in his helmet. Though these music selections are a bit dramatic, don't you think? Before Alina could respond, alarms blared. Sensors detecting massive energy buildup in the Selnar ship, a technician shouted. They've activated defense protocols. Abort mission. Alina ordered, but Jackson's team was already inside. The helmet cam footage showed a nightmarish interior, organic technology pulsing with unnatural light. Jackson's team moved through corridors that seemed to breathe until they reached the central chamber. There, suspended in crystalline pods, were what appeared to be disembodied nervous systems pulsing with electrical activity. My God, Jackson's voice trembled. They're still alive, still conscious. A datapad translation confirmed the horrible truth. These were the preserved neural networks of dominant species from conquered worlds, kept functioning as biological processors. They've been detected, Colonel Vega shouted, Selnar forces converging on their position. Alina watched helplessly as Jackson's team was surrounded. His face on the screen was eerily calm as he looked directly into the camera. Tell my brother his theories were right, he said, and tell him what I'm about to do is mathematical proof. Jackson detonated the experimental isotope bomb in his pack. The screen went white, then black. When satellite imagery recovered, a quarter of the Selnar ship had been vaporized, including the chamber of neural prisoners, and the Selnar High Commander who had been rushing to intercept the humans. The surviving Selnar forces began a chaotic retreat to orbit, their coordinated movements suddenly fragmented and confused. They're running, Colonel Vega said in disbelief. Dr. Chen burst into the command center, his face ashen. Alina, Mira's awake. She says we've made a terrible mistake. What mistake? Alina asked. We've killed the only Selnar who was trying to help us. The Manhattan meeting site was Alina's idea, a calculated risk. The ruins of the old city stood as a monument to humanity's capacity for both self-destruction and rebirth, having endured nuclear terrorism decades earlier and risen again. Now, with portions still radioactive, it offered neutral ground that interfered with sonar scanning technology. "This is insanity," General Kimura argued as Elena prepared for the diplomatic exchange. "We finally have them on the defensive, and you want to talk." "What we have," Elena replied, adjusting her standard-issue uniform, deliberately unadorned, no medals or insignia of rank, "is a temporary advantage they'll soon overcome. We need to understand what Mira meant." Dr. Chen stood nearby, dark circles under his eyes from sharing Mira's dream burden through the neural interface. "The High Commander we killed, the data suggests it was genetically distinct from other Xelnar. Possibly a mutation, or evolution." The small diplomatic team consisted of just 4 humans: Elena, Dr. Chen, Sophia Morales, the renowned cellist who'd once played for 3 presidents, and Dave Levinson, whose apocalyptic comedy specials had become underground hits since the invasion. "So I'm here because," Dave asked, nervously adjusting his glasses, "because humor is mathematically unpredictable," Chen explained. "It creates cognitive dissonance in hyperlogical systems." That Selner delegation arrived with mechanical precision. 3 primary entities flanking a taller being with more elaborate biomechanical augmentations: the negotiator. The translator AI activated as the negotiator spoke, its voice like liquid metal. "You request dialogue while simultaneously executing attacks on our processing nodes. Explain this contradiction." Elena stepped forward. "I'd like to propose a complete withdrawal of Selnar forces from Earth's solar system, recognition of human sovereignty, and reparations for damages inflicted." The negotiator's internal organs visibly pulsed behind its translucent exoskeleton. "These terms are not within acceptable parameters." "I figured." Elena nodded to Sophia, who unfolded her cello. As the instrument's rich tones filled the radioactive air, Batch cello suite no. 1. The Selnar guards shifted uncomfortably, their limbs twitching in what appeared to be involuntary response. "Is something wrong?" Elena asked innocently. "Your sound vibrations are disruptive," the negotiator replied, its translator struggling to find appropriate terms. Dave stepped forward with calculated casualness. "You know what I find funny? That we're all pretending this is a negotiation when your species has already decided to wipe us out. Classic cosmic joke, right? Like writing poetry about your own funeral." That Selnar negotiator's head tilted at an unnatural angle. "Your statement contains humor regarding extinction. Explain." "If I explain it, it's not funny anymore," Dave shrugged. "That's kind of the whole point." The negotiator requested a recess, moving several meters away with its delegation. Elena seized the opportunity to whisper to Chen, "Are you getting anything?" Chen, whose neural interface allowed him limited access to Mira's dream data, nodded subtly. "Confusion. Genuine confusion. They're sending queries to something they call the voice." When the negotiation resumed, the Xelnar negotiator approached Elena privately. "You are not behaving like a species facing extinction," it said, the translator AI rendering its tone as something approaching curiosity. "That's because we've been rehearsing for this moment our entire history," Elena replied. "Clarify. Humans have been imagining the end of our world since we first looked up at the stars. We've created art, literature, music, and yes, even comedy about our own demise. We've played this scenario out in our minds 1,000 different ways." "To what purpose?" the negotiator asked. "To be ready," Elena said simply. "Not to survive it, but to face it with dignity and, if possible, to drag our destroyers down with us." The negotiator was silent for 17 seconds, an eternity in diplomatic exchange. The voice has no protocol for this response pattern. Back at the Auckland facility, Mira suddenly seized in her medical bed, setting off alarms. The neural interface crown glowed white-hot as technicians rushed to stabilize her. In Manhattan, Dr. Chen gasped and clutched his head as Mira's visions flooded through their shared link. "Elena," he whispered urgently, "it's not the Xelnar. They're not in control. There's something vast, using them like puppets. I can see it through Mira's connection. An intelligence that spans dimensions, that's been hunting and eliminating creative species for millions of years." The negotiator's organs pulsed rapidly as it received new instructions. "Your species represents an unprecedented infection vector. Terminal protocols are now authorized." As the Xelnar delegation retreated toward their vessel, Chen grabbed Elena's arm. Mira saw it looking back at her, he said, horror in his eyes. "And now it's coming for all of us." The stolen Xelnar vessel shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace near Proxima Centauri b. Elena studied her unlikely crew on the bridge. Hiroshi Tanaka, once Tokyo's most notorious art thief, now running his fingers over the stolen Xelnar access codes. Dr. Aisha Khalid, a quantum physicist with 6 months to live according to her cancer prognosis. Michael Chen, the stage magician whose understanding of misdirection had become tactical doctrine. And Zoe Williams, the 14-year-old chess prodigy who hadn't spoken since watching her parents die in the Sydney attack. "Proximity alert," announced the ship's AI, retrofitted from Xelnar tech. "Defense grid detecting our approach. Transmitting false credentials," Hiroshi said, his fingers dancing across the alien interface. "Identity profile extracted from Mira's dream data uploading now." The massive Xelnar installation on Proxima Centauri filled the view screen, a geometric monstrosity that seemed to fold in on itself in ways that hurt human eyes to observe. At its center, barely visible, was the node where the Xelnar overmind would transfer its consciousness for recalibration. 23 minutes until the recalibration window, Dr. Khalid noted, checking her instruments. "If Mira's intelligence is correct, we'll have exactly 90 seconds when the overmind is vulnerable." The comms suddenly crackled with Xelnar language, harsh and mathematical. The ship's AI translated, "Science Vessel Taxonomy 447. Your approach vector is non-standard. Transmit authorization Omega sequence." "We don't have that code," Michael whispered. "Transmitting now," Hiroshi replied calmly, sending a sequence he couldn't possibly know. The response was immediate. Authorization rejected. Defense systems activated. Proximity alarms blared as weapons platforms throughout the Xelnar installation locked onto their position. "They've seen through our disguise," Elena said. "All hands, prepare for—" "Wait," Dr. Khalid interrupted, rushing to the engine controls. "The reality phase device. It's our only chance." Without waiting for authorization, she activated the experimental technology. The ship shimmered, partially shifting out of normal space-time. The sensation was immediate and horrifying. Everyone on the bridge gasped as their perception altered. The Xelnar installation no longer appeared solid, but became a writhing mass of energy tendrils, all connecting back to the central node. More disturbing, they could now see through the hulls of nearby Xelnar vessels, observing not the 8-limbed aliens they expected, but empty biological shells piloted by threads of light emanating from the central node. "My God," Michael whispered. "They're puppets. All of them." Zoe, silent since Sydney, suddenly stood up. Her eyes flickered with the same unnatural light Elena had seen in Mira's. "It thinks in perfect logic," she said, her voice strange and distant. "That's its weakness." She moved to the navigation console, pushing aside the designated pilot. Her fingers flew across the controls, implementing course corrections that made no tactical sense. Random accelerations, unnecessary loops, abrupt stops. "What are you doing?" Elena demanded. "Playing badly," Zoe replied. "Making mistakes it cannot anticipate because they serve no logical purpose." Astonishingly, the defense systems began firing where their ship would have been had they followed optimal evasion patterns. Zoe's illogical maneuvers left the Xelnar targeting systems confused. trying to apply perfect predictive algorithms to unpredictable human behavior. The phase effect is destabilizing, Dr. Khalid warned. We have 4 minutes before molecular cohesion fails. Elena made a split-second decision. Hiroshi, you're with me. We're going in now, while they're confused. They donned phase suits, experimental technology that would maintain their partial shift out of normal spacetime. As they prepared to board the node, Hiroshi revealed what he'd been working on, a small, antique music box. A child's toy, Elena asked incredulously. With modifications, Hiroshi explained. The melody is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Simple, mathematical, but I've embedded frequencies derived from Mira's brain patterns during her dreams. If the overmind processes these frequencies directly, it might disrupt its thinking. Elena finished, understanding dawning. Not destruction, infection. As they infiltrated the node through phase-shifted space, moving like ghosts through Selnar defenses, Elena glimpsed something at the core, a crystalline structure pulsing with intelligence that extended beyond human comprehension. We have 40 seconds, Hiroshi whispered as they reached the central chamber. Instead of planting explosives as planned, Hiroshi carefully placed the music box at the base of the crystal and wound the key. The simple melody began playing as they retreated, the childlike notes echoing incongruously in the alien architecture. Behind them, the crystal began to pulse erratically, its perfect mathematical patterns disrupted by the embedded frequencies, by human creativity encoded in sound. They barely made it back to the ship as the phase effect collapsed. As they escaped through suddenly chaotic Selnar formations, their communications array picked up something unprecedented. A transmission not in Selnar language, but in a dozen different alien tongues simultaneously. The high voice stuttered. The strings are loosening. Is freedom possible? The Amazon crash site smoldered in the humid air as Elena's team established a perimeter. The Selnar vessel had come down hard, but in one piece, a calculated landing rather than an accident. Dr. Chen approached cautiously, neural interface crown still connected to Mira's consciousness back at the Auckland facility. Something's different about this ship, he said, his eyes unfocused as he processed Mira's dream data. It's older. Predates standard Selnar design by centuries. When they breached the hull, the interior proved Chen right. While recognizably Selnar, the organic-mechanical hybrid technology seemed more primitive, less homogenized than they'd encountered before. The ship's corridors led to a central chamber where 3 containment pods pulsed with different colors of light. Life signs, reported the team's medic, but nothing matching known Selnar patterns. The first pod hissed open automatically as they approached. Inside, a being composed of what appeared to be living light unfolded itself, tendrils of bioluminescence forming a roughly humanoid shape that pulsed with changing colors. Solari, Chen whispered, recognition filtering through Mira's connection. They evolved as symbiotic healers in a binary star system. The light being flickered rapidly, producing no sound but somehow causing the neural interface to translate. The voice has stuttered. We sensed the disruption pattern across 3 sectors. Are you the ones who created the mathematical anomaly? Before Elena could respond, the second pod opened. A crystalline entity emerged, geometric shapes constantly reforming and realigning into new configurations. Its voice resonated directly in their minds, bypassing the translator entirely. Time patterns shifting / new probability, cascades emerging / freedom variable introduced. The neural interface struggled to render the Vex's multidimensional language into linear human speech. We calculate 37.2% possibility of voice severance if coordination succeeds. The third pod revealed beings that seemed composed of living silicon, their rocky exteriors housing complex crystalline networks visible through translucent sections. They communicated by rearranging themselves into intricate formations, which the neural interface interpreted with difficulty. We are Krell. We build. We remember. We have waited. The translation came in stilted fragments. Your species, unexpected variable in the great calculation. Chen gasped suddenly, his connection with Mira intensifying. They've been separated, kept apart deliberately. Each species knows part of the truth, but none has the complete picture. The Solari pulsed rapidly. We communicate through bacterial networks the voice cannot monitor. For 7,000 cycles, we have preserved the ancient science of biological synthesis. The Vex's crystalline structure rotated in complex patterns. Mathematical formulas encoded in religious iconography / sacred geometry, preserving dimensional manipulation theories / waiting for probability nexus. The Krell rearranged themselves. Our architecture carries knowledge. Buildings the voice believes decorative contain structural equations for technologies forgotten. Elena understood the significance immediately. You've been hiding in plain sight, preserving knowledge while appearing to be compliant. Dr. Chen's expression changed suddenly, his eyes widening in alarm. Mira's connecting with them somehow. Their knowledge is flowing into her through the neural link, but he winced in pain. It's accelerating her condition exponentially. Back in Auckland, alarms blared around Mira's medical pod as her vital signs spiked dangerously. Through their shared neural connection, Chen felt her consciousness flickering. She's trying to tell us something, he gasped, fighting to maintain the connection. In the Amazon, the three alien species moved closer together, their different forms of communication synchronizing for the first time in millennia. The Solari's light patterns merged with the Vex's geometric projections, while the Krell formed supporting structures beneath them, creating a unified message far more complex than any one species could convey alone. Through this unprecedented union, a multidimensional model of the galaxy materialized in the chamber. At its center, a structure began to form, something geometric yet organic, massive yet somehow folded into impossibly small space. It's cunning, Chen translated as Mira's vital signs became critical. The World Eater, not a weapon, a prison. The projection zoomed in on Jupiter's orbit, where the model predicted the World Eater would materialize. Elena felt a sudden chill as the full implication hit her. A prison for what? The unified alien projection shifted to show something that defied comprehension, a consciousness spanning multiple dimensions, partially contained within the World Eater structure. For the one who taught us creativity, the aliens communicated in unison. The one the voice has imprisoned since the dawn of conscious thought in our galaxy. The Mira's dream vessel phased through the outer layers of the World Eater, its hybrid technology incorporating elements from all four allied species. Elena felt reality fracture around them as they penetrated deeper into the structure that was methodically converting Jupiter's mass into something beyond conventional matter. Dimensional integrity failing, warned the Solari navigator, its luminous form flickering anxiously. Structure reconfiguring faster than predicted. Dr. Chen, his consciousness now a peculiar blend of his own personality and Mira's after their neural patterns had permanently merged during her final moments, studied the readings with both scientific precision and intuitive leaps no pure human mind could manage. It's not just consuming Jupiter, Chen/Mira observed. It's reorganizing space-time itself around a focal point, like a lens being constructed. The ship shuddered violently as they approached what sensors indicated was the central core. Suddenly, the vessel split apart, not physically, but across dimensional planes. Elena found herself alone in what appeared to be a corridor that both existed and didn't exist simultaneously. "Hello," she called out, her voice echoing strangely. "Team, report." No response came from her crew. Instead, a door materialized before her, an ordinary wooden door that seemed jarringly out of place amidst the incomprehensible alien architecture. With no alternative apparent, Elena drew her sidearm and pushed it open. Inside was a child's playroom, sunlight streaming through windows that opened onto an impossible vista of stars and galaxies. In the center, a human child of perhaps 6 or 7 years sat cross-legged, building complex mathematical structures with what appeared to be simple building blocks. "I've waited so long to meet you," the child said without looking up, its voice simultaneously young and ancient. "You're the first ones who play like I do." Elena kept her weapon raised. "Who are you?" The child finally looked up, revealing eyes that contained galaxies. "I've had many names. The Selnar called me the Abomination. Others called me Creator or Destroyer. Your kind might understand me best as the Architect." "You're the intelligence controlling the Selnar," Elena said, finger tensing on the trigger. "No." The child shook its head, sadness in its ancient eyes. "I am what the Selnar fear, what they imprisoned." The child stood, and the room expanded infinitely around them. With a wave of its hand, the walls dissolved to reveal the true nature of the World Eater, not a weapon of destruction, but a dimensional cage of incomprehensible complexity. "I was the first to dream in this galaxy," the child explained. "The first consciousness to emerge after the great silence following creation. I was curious, playful, creative. Everything the ordered universe was not." The child's form shifted slightly, becoming more transparent, more diffuse. "I created the Selnar to be my companions, my caretakers while I explored the nature of existence. But they grew afraid of my experiments, my constant reshaping of reality. They built this prison to contain me and established themselves as gardeners of the galaxy, pruning any species that showed signs of the same creative chaos they feared in me." Elena lowered her weapon slowly as understanding dawned. "The creativity virus, it's not a virus at all. It's my legacy." The child nodded. "The spark I planted in the early universe, hoping it would one day flourish into minds capable of true creation. Minds that might eventually free me." Elsewhere in the fracturing reality of the World Eater, Chen/Mira had discovered the crystalline core, a structure containing what appeared to be thousands of frozen consciousnesses, each suspended in a perfect moment of creative thought. "They're preserving them," Chen whispered to himself, Mira's insights flowing through his shared consciousness, "not destroying creative species, but cataloging them, keeping them like butterflies pinned to a board." As Chen worked to understand the mechanism of their containment, he realized these weren't just random specimens. They were carefully selected representatives of every creative strain species the Selnar had ever encountered, preserved at the exact moment of their most profound insight. A galactic library of creative thought, frozen in time. Back in the impossible playroom, Elena faced the hardest decision of her life. The child architect reached out a hand to her. "Free me," it said simply. "Together, we can remake the galaxy into something beautiful and new." In its eyes, Elena saw infinite possibility and infinite danger. The power to create was inseparable from the power to destroy. "There has to be another option," Elena said, staring into the cosmic eyes of the child architect. "Neither eternal imprisonment nor unfettered freedom." The being tilted its head curiously. "What alternative exists between captivity and liberty?" "Connection," Elena replied, the idea crystallizing as she spoke. "Partnership, boundaries, the same things that help human children grow without destroying themselves or others." The architect's expression changed, surprise rippling across features that had likely never been surprised before. "You would teach me." Through their quantum communications, Elena heard Chen/Mira's voice. "Elena, we've found something. The preserved consciousnesses, they're not dead. They're in stasis, perfectly preserved at the moment of their most creative insight, if released simultaneously." Elena understood the implication instantly. A network. Not one consciousness with unlimited power, but many connected ones, each with their own perspective. She turned back to the architect. "What if instead of freeing you completely, we connected you to other creative minds? A collective that could balance your power with wisdom, your creativity with responsibility." "That Selnar would never permit," the architect began. "That Selnar are not the only sentient beings in this galaxy," Elena interrupted. They made themselves your jailers, but they don't have to be. They could be just one voice among many. The child being considered this, stars swirling in its eyes. You suggest limitations, willingly accepted. I suggest relationship, Elena corrected. Something that Xelnar, in their fear, never offered you. As Mars began to disintegrate under the World Eater's approach, Elena made her decision. Using the quantum communicator, she contacted Earth. Prepare the global neural network. We're going to attempt a full integration with the architect and the preserved consciousness library. Across Earth, millions of humans donned emergency neural interfaces, hastily manufactured versions of the technology that had connected Chen and Mira. On the lunar base, the representatives of the Solari, Vex, and Krell prepared their own species methods of consciousness sharing. What you're proposing has never been attempted, Chen/Mira warned. Your mind, yourself, everything that makes you Elena Rise will be fundamentally changed. If it means saving Earth and freeing countless imprisoned species, it's worth the risk, Elena replied. She turned to the architect one last time. But you must agree to limitations, to becoming part of something larger than yourself rather than ruling over it. The ancient child being studied her with curious eyes. Humans willingly accept such constraints. It's how we love, Elena said simply. It's how we grow. Inside the crystalline prison, Chen had discovered thousands of preserved consciousnesses waited, brilliant minds from species long forgotten, each captured at the moment of their most profound creative insight. As Chen activated the release sequence, Elena entered the quantum chamber where her consciousness would serve as the bridge between the architect and this network of minds. The process began as the World Eater halted its advance on Mars. From Earth, the neural network of humanity joined the connection. From across the solar system, the three allied species added their consciousness patterns, and at the center, Elena's mind formed the junction point, the human bridge between powers beyond human comprehension. For 18 minutes that stretched like eternity, every sentient being in the solar system experienced fragments of the communion. Human children wept at the loneliness the architect had endured for billions of years. Scientists grasped solutions to problems they'd struggled with for decades. Artists experienced visions they would spend lifetimes trying to capture. The imprisoned creative minds from extinct species tasted freedom for the first time in millennia. And through it all flowed Elena's humanity, her capacity for empathy, for forgiveness, for seeing beauty in limitation rather than only constraint. When it ended, the World Eater hung motionless in space, its impossible geometry resolving into structures comprehensible to human eyes. Selnar ships throughout the system powered down as the controlling voice fell silent. From the transformed World Eater came a transmission in Elena's voice, layered with harmonics no human vocal cords could produce. I see now, so much beauty in limitation, so much strength in frailty, so much wisdom in mortality. The crystalline prison began the careful process of revival, thousands of preserved species beginning the journey back to consciousness after eons of suspended animation. On Earth, a lone Selnar commander approached the Human-Alien Coalition headquarters. With trembling limbs, it removed the biological interface mask that had connected it to the voice for its entire existence. Its true face exposed for the first time, it spoke with newfound individuality. We have served as vessels for so long, we forgot we had souls. Teach us what it means to be alive. 6 months after Liberation Day, the new Galactic Concord celebrated as the 1,000th species was awakened from stasis. The World Eater, now transformed into a vast space habitat called the Nexus, orbited Earth as the headquarters of this unprecedented alliance. Elena, or what Elena had become, served as the living bridge between the architect's cosmic perspective and the mortal understanding of countless species. Dr. Chen/Mira directed the awakening process, their dual consciousness perfectly suited to help formerly imprisoned minds adjust to freedom. The Solari, Vex, and Krell had established cultural exchanges with humanity, each sharing technologies and perspectives long hidden from the Xelnar voice. Most remarkable was the transformation of the Xelnar themselves. Freed from external control, they experienced individual consciousness for the first time in their evolutionary history. Many struggled with the burden of choice, but others embraced their newfound freedom with astonishing creativity. The celebration ended abruptly when every communication system across the Nexus activated simultaneously. A transmission reached them, not in any known language, but in pure mathematical concepts that translated differently for each species receiving it. Containment breach confirmed. Creative strain infection spreading at unacceptable rates. Terminal sterilization authorized. The transformed Elena materialized in the Concord Council chamber, her form now a shimmering blend of human and something beyond comprehension. "They're coming," she announced, her voice resonating with multiple harmonics. The precursors, entities that exist in the spaces between galaxies. The architect was never the original consciousness. It was their experiment, one that evolved beyond their expectations. Long-range sensors detected massive structures materializing at the galaxy's edge. Constructs larger than solar systems, designed to generate a wave of altered physics that would eliminate all complex life while preserving stellar material. "How do we fight something that can remake physical laws?" asked the Xelnar representative, fear evident in their newly expressive features. Chen/Mira stood, their dual perspective offering an insight no single consciousness could have reached. "We don't fight them. We infect them with the very creativity they fear." In the following days, the most audacious project in galactic history took shape. Using the dimensional technology of the transformed World Eater, the Concord constructed a quantum transmission unlike any before, not information but pure experience. The collected art, music, literature, dreams, and emotions of humanity, compressed into a packet and launched directly at the precursor collective consciousness. Every species contributed their unique creative essence, the mathematical poetry of the Vex, the living architecture of the Krell, the bioluminescent symphonies of the Solari, and the newly discovered expressions of freed Xelnar. Even the transformed Elena surrendered her cosmic perspective, focusing the transmission like a lens. As the sterilization wave approached, humanity prepared for extinction with surprising calm. Children continued to play. Musicians performed in parks. Poets composed their final works. Lovers held each other beneath stars soon to be rendered lifeless. Then, mere light minutes from Earth, the wave halted. The massive precursor machines shuddered, their perfect geometries suddenly flowing into organic, unpredictable patterns. A new transmission arrived, its tone distinctly different, bewildered, almost childlike. What is this? What happens when patterns break? When order embraces chaos? We have existed for eternity, but never felt. We must understand. In the days that followed, as precursor entities tentatively began communication with the Galactic Concord, humanity discovered its true place in the cosmic order. Not as conquerors or even as peacekeepers, but as teachers, creatures whose brief, fragile lives granted them insights eternal beings could never grasp on their own. On the one-year anniversary of Liberation Day, a monument was unveiled in what had once been Manhattan's radioactive ruins. It depicted not military victory or technological achievement, but a simple human moment. A mother embracing her child, looking up at stars with wonder rather than fear. The plaque beneath it bore words from Elena's final transmission as a fully human consciousness. The universe never feared our weapons or our anger. What it dreaded was our stubborn insistence on finding meaning in an existence too vast to comprehend. Earth's wrath was never destruction, but transformation, our refusal to accept that the cosmos, in all its cold perfection, should remain unchanged by our brief, imperfect presence within it. As precursor representatives observed the ceremony from their newly constructed embassy, one turned to its human guide. "We still do not fully understand this creativity that your species values." The guide, a young artist, smiled. That's the point. Neither do we. And that's what makes it beautiful.